You ever get the sense that if you just keep your head down, do your job, things will work out? Yeah, I used to believe that too. But let me tell you what happened the day I stopped disappearing and started speaking up not just for myself, but for everyone in the room who didn't even know they needed it. It was supposed to be an ordinary morning at the Empire Grand, that hotel where marble's polished enough to see your doubts looking back at you. I've been working there, server uniform and all, for months, moving through boardrooms like I was invisible. The big shots, the money guys, they'd sit in these rooms talking circles around contracts, so thick you need a lawyer and a mind reader to keep up. That day, it was a sheik from the Gulf Hassan al-Rashid, gray suit, eyes like he's already 3 steps ahead of you. He and the Americans were finalizing some deal, words swirling in 2 languages, half the room nodding along like it was all above their pay grade. I was pouring water, trying not to let my nerves show, when I heard him say something that made the hairs on my arms stand up, a phrase buried in legalese, disguised as local compliance flexibility. But the way he said it was a trap, a clause that could wipe out every promise on paper, retroactively. They'd lose everything if they signed. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who's going to listen to the help? But something in me snapped. I put down the tray, cleared my throat, and in the sheik's own dialect, I called him out right there in front of everyone. The room froze like someone hit pause. A dozen suits turned, some gaping, others just embarrassed for me. The sheik's eyebrow arched. "You speak Arabic?" he said, switching to English. I answered him in his own tongue, not flinching. And I know the difference between a safety net and a noose. He grilled me on my background. I told him I'd worked risk compliance in Abu Dhabi before my mom got sick, before the resume gap that made me invisible to HR. Someone tried to get me tossed out. But another voice robber from the American side piped up. "Maybe we should hear her out." The sheik waved off security. I explained clause by clause how that little phrase meant the whole deal could be gutted later. He studied me not angry, just calculating. Then he fired his own translator on the spot. Meeting adjourned. As I walked out, adrenaline crashing, I wondered if I just ended my job or changed my fate. I rode the service elevator down with Carmen, the housekeeper who always had my back. She asked if I was okay. I might have said too much. She smiled, but just enough. My supervisor was waiting for me in the break room, sweating bullets. "You embarrassed us," he said. "No," I replied. "I protected you." Then in walks Veronica Ellison, the general manager, silver hair, eyes sharp as cut glass. She cuts him off. She's not in trouble. She's coming to my office at 3. Suddenly, I wasn't just a server anymore. Veronica's office was pure Manhattan power. Floor-to-ceiling windows, wall of awards, a single photo of her shaking hands with President Carter. She grilled me, checked my credentials, then slid a binder across the desk. "If you really see what others don't, mark every risk in this contract by tomorrow." That night in my tiny apartment, I worked until dawn, cross-checking every line, highlighting each hidden trap, remembering my father's advice: justice is a long road, but you gotta start walking. Next morning, running on 3 hours of sleep and black coffee, I handed her my notes. She flipped through them, raised an eyebrow at every margin flag, then gave a slow nod. "You still got it," she said. Before I could ask what that meant, the sheik's people called. They wanted me at the renegotiation, this time not as a server, but as a consultant. Walking back into that boardroom was like stepping on stage after years in the wings. The suits watched, skeptical. The sheik, this time, greeted me in Arabic, a flicker of respect crossing his face. The lawyers debated. The tension was thick enough to slice. I spoke only when necessary, translating between legal intent and cultural nuance, pointing out how some phrases in English could trigger offense or loopholes abroad. At one break, a junior partner cornered me in the hall, sneering, "You don't belong here." I just looked him dead in the eye. "My clearance is in the fine print you didn't bother to read." By the end, the sheik agreed to rewrite the contracts with my notes as the backbone. After everyone filed out, he handed me an old coin, a token of memory, not payment. You spoke truth to power. That's dangerous and rare, he said. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was passing through someone else's story. I felt like I was writing my own. But the ripples didn't stop there. 3 days later, I was called up to the firm's legal department, now as a compliance analyst. Some old guard types grumbled about diversity hires, whispered about DEI initiatives. But when the next audit landed on my desk, I flagged 3 more hidden traps, one that would have cost the company millions, another that would have exposed them to lawsuits from tribal communities. When I brought it to Veronica, she didn't hesitate. You're making us safer, Maya. Don't let up. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. An anonymous envelope landed on my desk, transaction ledgers showing millions meant for environmental justice initiatives on native lands, rerouted to offshore accounts tied to an executive's old college buddy. This wasn't just corporate fraud. This was stealing from communities with poisoned wells and broken promises. I looped in Angelina from compliance and Amal from risk management. With their help and a retired controller named Elijah, who'd kept the original ledgers for years, just in case justice ever came knocking, we put together the smoking gun. Presenting those findings in the boardroom was another kind of battle. The accused Philip and Harold tried every trick, deflection, legalese, even veiled threats. But with signatures, emails, and Elijah's sworn affidavit, there was no escape. The sheik invoked emergency oversight, had them suspended on the spot. Their power evaporated in minutes, like mist when the sun comes out. But I knew enough to keep my guard up in a world where snakes wear suits. Not all of them slither away. Afterward, the sheik met with me privately, offered a permanent role as global ethics advisor. I told him I needed time to decide. That night on my fire escape, I held his letter, my father's compass, and realized this wasn't just about me. It was about every unseen voice, every community let down by the system. When I said yes, it was because I believed if you're in the room, you don't stay silent. You build the table wider. We rolled out an integrity charter, transparency, local oversight, whistleblower protection, and I traveled from Minnesota to Mexico City to Bucharest, working with community leaders, adapting the model so it wasn't just American values imposed abroad, but true collaboration. Every time someone asked, "Will this work?" I said, "If we fail, we own it and we fix it." That's how trust is built. Months later, a plaque went up in the Empire Grand Lobby. It didn't have my name in big letters, but it read, "Saved by a voice that refused to stay silent." Carmen, my friend from housekeeping, handed me a token that day, "Voice of Integrity," it said. And I realized legacy isn't what you carve in marble. It's the echo of every truth spoken when it's hardest. So, if you're still listening, ask yourself, would you have spoken up or kept your head down? Is integrity worth risking your comfort, your job, your peace? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in my place? Where does courage start for you, and where should it take us next? Because this isn't just my story. It's a question for every community, every boardroom, every person who's ever wondered, does one voice make a difference? You know what I mean? Let's keep that echo going.
Xin chào các bạn, mình là Trinh, mình phụ trách viết content. Trên đây là những công việc của mình là mình lên mạng xã hội tìm hiểu những video
Hey, if you guys have any trouble, let somebody know, please.
After the tree to hold on to. Yeah.
Yeah, use the fence.